And along with our guest at this time, and we had Andrew Marchand of The Athletic on the show last week, who I think is, along with our friend Ryan Glasspiegel, one of the premier sports media newsbreakers and critics in the country. And Andrew agreed with me when I said this, so Robbie Hummel is going to join us in a second. So I say this even when Robbie's not. I'm not just saying this because he's on with us right now. Robbie is one of the rising stars in sports media, period. And I don't know if he knows that or not, but I just said it, and he joins me now here on the show. Robbie, it's Nick Costos on Westwood One. It is awesome to have you here on the show. Congratulations on the success. How's it going in Indianapolis?
No, I appreciate you saying that, and things are good. Indy is a great, host city for any event, and I grew up in the state of Indiana here, so just knowing the appreciation for basketball that this state has and this city has, and it's just the vibe here today in Indy is pretty cool because you've got these four fan bases that are just so hungry to win a national title, and it definitely has filled in from when we got here Wednesday night.
Now, you're not going to think, Robbie, that this is a hot take, but I think a lot of people listening and watching will. As someone who worked, in the NFL for a while and went to a ton of scouting combines and like the Giants-Patriots Super Bowl 46 in Indianapolis, I think that Indianapolis might be the best big game host city in the country. New Orleans is great. There are some really great options. I think Indy might be number one. Hot take from me or just right, says Robbie Hummel.
No, I think that's fair. The only critique that I would put out there of Indianapolis is that for the Final Four, the weather is still dicey at this time. And if you're in New Orleans or you're in, the south parts of the country, it's going to be guaranteed warm. And right now it is on the warmer side, but I think on Sunday it's going to be in the 40s here. So, I'm from the Midwest. I know how it works. Spring can seem like summer's here and then winter's back, and you never know. But my only critique of Indianapolis, because everything is close, the hotels are here, there's great food, there's good bars, the arena, whether you're going to a Pacers game at Gainbridge or you're going to a football game or a big event like the Final Four over at Lucas Oil, it's all walkable. You don't have to drive. Like, they've been hosting big events here since the Indy 500 started, and that's we're in the 100 and whateverth running of that. So this city has great experience in hosting, and I think my only beef with Indianapolis is that it's not 80 and sunny every day here.
Well, if you had asked me in my early to mid 20s when I was going out there to cover events, my suggestion would be just drink a lot, and it'll insulate you when you're walking on the cold streets of Indianapolis.
That's good advice.
Robbie,
right there.
We'll do the games in a second here, but just because I'm a nerd for this stuff, it's sincere, right? Your rise here and the job that you've done has been pretty meteoric, right? I think that's fair to say, covering college basketball, covering the NBA, for the outlets that you work for. It's been really fun to watch, and you do a great job. Do you ever sit down and think about that, how far you've come and all the cool stuff that you're doing? Because I'll tell you, a lot of people in sports media like me have noticed and enjoy your work. And again, I'm not just saying that because you're on the air. I say that when you're not on the air also.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, I have pinch me moments honestly, this year it's been a lot. I'm sitting at practice yesterday talking to Bill Raftery and Grant Hill, and you're like, how did I get here? How is this reality? And, I saw a lot of really good players when I was playing, but to be around some of these guys, or even calling the first two weekends with Kevin Harlan, who I worked with a good amount in the regular season, but then also Stan Van Gundy. And I was telling somebody this yesterday, I've loved the NCAA tournament since I was a kid because I'm from Valparaiso, Indiana, and Bryce Drew's shot and their run to the Sweet 16 was so big for our community and for my love of basketball growing up. And it was a big part of kind of shaping, I think, my interests, as a third grader, seeing that happen. And then also combining that with Michael Jordan and the Bulls, winning all those championships just 55
I'm a Knicks
minutes
fan.
away.
You're not making me happy here
as
a Knicks fan who had my childhood ruined by Michael Jordan.
To grow up with those, to grow up with those things going on, I love the sport. And I got goosebumps for every tournament game when the CBS song would start playing and Kevin Harlan would be like, "Here we go," or "Welcome to the Sweet 16," or whatever he would open that with. You're just like, man, this is really, really cool. And I will always keep that perspective that, man, I'm getting paid to sit courtside and watch high-level basketball, whether it's college or pro, and do something that I really enjoy and love, and I am extremely fortunate to do that.
And obviously, like, played in the NCAA tournament when you were at Purdue. It's pretty. It's just like I grew up watching the NCAA tournament also, and I loved it. I didn't get to play in it, so that's pretty cool. Also from our friend Robbie Hummel. All right, let's actually talk about the games now. What a novel concept, right? I think they're going to be awesome tomorrow night. And I did 40 minutes to open the show, how pumped I am for Illinois UConn and Danny Hurley's line this week. We're here for rings, not watches. I enjoyed that. And obviously Arizona, Michigan in the nightcap has the potential to be one of the great national semifinals, like in our lifetimes, going to be awesome. Let's start, Robbie, with Connecticut and Illinois. And just to give this context, our show sponsor is BetMGM, and I don't know, I'm not going to ask you your betting opinion, but just so you know, if you're not aware of it already, Illinois is a small favorite against UConn, Michigan a small favorite against Arizona, just to provide that context. So I like Illinois in the game. I think if Illinois plays its A-plus game, the Illini will win, play for a national championship on Monday night. When you conceptualize Illinois versus UConn tomorrow in the first game, how do you see the game playing out?
Well, I think for, Illinois, their defense has improved so much from seeing them in February where it's like, God, these guys just, they cannot get consistent stops, to then seeing them in Houston. And granted, Houston's not the greatest offensive team. They're not a juggernaut. Iowa certainly isn't either, but they were giving them real problems. And their positional size is a problem for offenses to play against. But UConn is a different beast. And I'm really intrigued to see if that defensive improvement sticks, because Connecticut is going to run guys off screens and cut and slip, and they're a different animal. And I'm really curious to see if Illinois' improvement is the real deal, or if it's a little bit of just the fact that they were playing two offenses that could bog down. And, with UConn, you've got the Danny Hurley effect where they're running great stuff and they just find ways to win games. But I could not have been more impressed with Illinois in Houston. I thought offensively they handled everything that Houston threw at them. The pressure, the reads. Keaton Wagler was composed, under control. And honestly, for this game, the rebounding is so important because Illinois truly looks to destroy you on the offensive glass. And they're looking for kick-out threes. The three-point line looms large, and I think UConn, they're going to need some of the guys that haven't shot the ball well, the solo balls, the Braylon Mullins. Those guys have got to shoot it better, but rebounding to me is where it's going to come down to, because Illinois can just overwhelm you with their size and second chances.
You bet on this Friday, Westwood One Sports, Nick Costos and you and Robbie Hummel, who will be on the national radio call along with PJ Carlissimo, Kevin Kugler, and Andy Katz tomorrow in the national semifinals, and of course Monday night for the national championship game. Robbie, man, like you said it, right? You love college. You're just like us. You hear the music, you get jazzed. You clearly love the NCAA tournament, and we love the NCAA tournament. And when we and you think about Arizona and Michigan, I mean, this is the type of mouth-watering matchup you dream about, getting in a national semifinal, right? Maybe the two best teams all season, doesn't guarantee the winner will win the title, but probably the two best teams along with Duke all season long, meeting for a chance to play in the national championship game. And I talked about this with Coach Carlissimo earlier this hour. A lot of reputable NBA mock drafts and what we're calling a generational NBA draft, as many as 6 first-round picks will emerge from Arizona and Michigan combined. So this is going to be an awesome game. Same question for you. When you think about how this game is going to play out, what do you see in your mind, Arizona versus Michigan tomorrow night?
Well, I totally agree with you that these have been the best two teams for all of the season. And when you look at their rosters, both Michigan and Arizona are absolutely huge. So I think the first thing that sticks out is who can kind of impose their will and be the more physical team and win the physical battle in the paint, on the glass. Transition is really important for both these teams, both Arizona and Michigan. They want to get out and they want to go. So for the defenses, keeping these offenses in the half court is really important. And, with Arizona, they just have so many weapons. I look at the back courts, because both these front courts are outstanding. When you're looking at Krivas, Koa-Pete, Ivan Karchenkov going up against Yaxel Lendabord, Morez Johnson, and the Daimara, that's the varsity of this sport. Those front courts are really, really impressive. So I think the back courts, and I would say on paper, the advantage goes to Arizona. Jaden Bradley, the Big 12 Player of the Year. Braden Burry is about to be a lottery pick. And that's not a slight on Elliot Cadeau or Namari Burnett. Those guys are good players, and Cadeau is a really important piece for Michigan, especially with L.J. Cason's injury. But I think the backcourts will be a deciding factor because we know how good these front courts are, and they're going to battle, and they're going to do what they do in the paint. But, who can step out? And I think Purdue had a pretty good game plan on Arizona in the first half, executed it of trying to keep those guys on the perimeter, but it's just so much easier said than done. Michigan has the advantage in terms of their shooting on the perimeter and the volume that they can shoot it at, whereas Arizona's not looking to do that. But again, it's the glass, it's the paint, it's transition. It is totally big boy basketball. This is a matchup, like you said, that we all hoped we'd get, and lucky enough we get it here on Saturday night.
About 30 seconds for this one, Robbie. Obviously, like either UConn or Illinois will play for the national championship on Monday, and we don't know who the opponent will be. But out of those two, in the first game tomorrow, Illinois and UConn, which one do you think you would give the better chance to beat either Arizona or Michigan in Monday night's national championship game in about 30 seconds?
Boy, that's hard to say because I would say Illinois has the better talent. But who would bet against Danny Hurley at this point? Who is crazy enough to go against what he's done?
I am. Yeah. I'm betting Illinois. I'm going to bet Illinois tomorrow.
I think I would say Illinois because I think they're playing better overall, even though it was incredible to watch the way UConn came back against Duke and found a way in that game. UConn not shooting the three all that well in the NCAA tournament. I'll go with Illinois because they're playing so well, but boy, I don't feel good about picking against Danny. I will say that.
Final question for you, Robbie. You showed me that at least as far as food is concerned, that you know ball. Because you said correctly that Indianapolis is, I believe, a pretty underrated food city. Now, you played in the NBA for a number of years, so I know you've been to all the big cities in the country. What is the best food city in America per Robbie Hummel, and why?
Well, I think I'm going to be biased to where I live. And you could always say New York. That I think that probably, you wouldn't argue that, but I think Chicago has just incredible world-class food. And, I do love New Orleans for their food because I love seafood. And I think, now you could definitely gain some pounds down there eating what they're serving you. But I'm going to go Chicago because I think if you look at the number of high-level restaurants there, you could go to a different place every day for lunch and dinner and have an unbelievable meal. So I'm going to be biased to it's not my hometown, but where I live now, and I'll go with Chi-Town.
10 seconds here. Better pizza, New York or Chicago?
Man, see, and all the East Coast guys, they're going to crush me, but I like Chicago pizza. And Pequod's, man, I know everybody says Giordano's or Lou Malnati's is really good too, but
Pequod's is unbelievable. I agree with you on that.
It's pretty close to my house, and I love Pequod's, so I'm about that. I'm going to go with Chicago.
All right, now listen, I'm a native New Yorker. New York pizza's obviously better, so maybe I'll take back the ball thing as it concerns food. But
we're both biased to where we live. I get that.
Yeah, just like I'm just from the better place. It's all right. Chicago, the second city, New York's number one. It's okay. Robbie, you're, in all sincerity, you're awesome. Congratulations on the success. Hope you, and I know you guys will, have a great call of the games tomorrow and on Monday night, and hope to have you here, Westwood One Sports, You Bet with Nick Costos down the line. Thank you.
No, thanks, Nick. I appreciate it, man.
Robbie Hummel joining us here on You Bet. So look, New York pizza is obviously better than Chicago pizza, but it doesn't